welcome back to the Stars Expanding Universe, narrated by Disney, or Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it. Legends. I have a few things for you today. Starting with Star Wars Empire comic series, issue 8. Even though the last couple pages are like during episode 4, but just ignore that. Issue 8 focuses on Biggs Darklighter, Luke Skywalker's childhood friend. We get to see him join the Imperial Academy. We get to see him become kind of disillusioned with it and join the Rebel Alliance. And since we really don't have that many stories with Biggs, since he kind of just hugs Luke and dies, it's nice to get a little bit more with him. So, yeah. I don't have too much to say. Just one issue, but definitely worth your time. Now, we get to the big one. Dark Forces, Novella, Soldier for the Empire. So there's this. There's also an audio drama that isn't exactly the same, but is relatively similar. And of course the video game. Now, the video game, most of the game takes place after episode 4, but before episode 5, so like in that 3-year gap. But that first mission, where you steal the Death Star plans, is obviously before episode 4. Now this book, only the last like 30 pages have anything to do with that first mission. Everything else in this book is all expanded material. We start off following Morgan Katarn, Kyle Katarn's father. Then we follow Kyle for the remainder of it. From him as an Imperial, as a stormtrooper, to him turned rebel. And I absolutely loved it. For instance, we get these small sections from the villain's perspective. We get to see Jarek before we become the main antagonist in the next video game for Kyle Katarn. Who else is on the ship with Jarek? Oh, nobody big. Just Captain Thrawn. Yes, not Grand Admiral yet, but he is a captain following the charge of Jarek. That was awesome. We get a couple moments like that going back with him, but then it kind of just solely focuses on Kyle. Now this is another thing, when I didn't know about the expanded universe, when I only knew about canon, one of the coolest things to me was Finn from the sequels. Now, I don't try to mention the sequels too much, but Finn had a lot of potential that was wasted. And Finn, I thought, was a unique concept. A stormtrooper turned hero? But as with most things, there's nothing new under the sun, as this had already been done before, with Kyle Katarn. Stormtrooper turned mercenary, turned rebel, turned Jedi Knight. That is Kyle Katarn. He did it first, and his story is really good. The novella shows how he had joined the academy because he wanted the money. It was a good paying job. Didn't really care about politics that much, but he knew he could serve his country. Morgan didn't really want him to, but he also supported his son. But the Empire stages a rebel attack on the farming area that Morgan Katarn is at. Jarek kidnaps Morgan Katarn, tortures him, and kills him, and the Empire blames it on the rebels. So, someone who was, reluctant is now gung-ho about everything Empire, now that he thinks his father was killed by rebels. But as we get near the end of the story, well, Kyle also goes on a mission before, and because he's not completely heartless, not completely evil, he meets Jan Ors, somebody very important to the video games, and he lets her go. And by doing so, later on, she would let him go. And then they would form a friendship, and he would be convinced by her that the Empire had staged the rebel attack. And so once he realizes with almost complete certainty that he'd been lied to, right then and there, he's a rebel. And so, with a little convincing by Mon Mothma, he's convinced to take the Death Star plans. Now, the only big difference between a novella and that first mission in the game is, of course, the game is a shooter. So you're going in, you're mowing down millions of guys like it's nothing. In the novella, Kyle Katarn's a bit more stealthy, poking in, shooting out, not going gung-ho, which makes it way more realistic. And that's really the only difference here. The conclusion is the same. Kyle Katarn gets a fraction. There's a couple of ones in there, but he gets one of the big fractions of the Death Star plans that they need to take it down. And it's awesome. And I definitely think if you can find it, which on the internet it's relatively easy to find, is well worth a read. And if you can't find it, then everywhere on YouTube, I might even upload it to my channel, but everywhere on YouTube you can find the audio drama, which is also equally fantastic, though slightly different. So I hope you all join me, or I hope you all will check that out. I'm sorry, I'm tired. I just woke up like an hour ago. But yeah, hope you all check that out. Up next, we have Mara Jade, issue 0. If you have the Shadows of the Empire comic collection, or the Tales from the New Republic Epic Collection Volume 1, you can find these. It's included. Basically, when you're reading the comic, it'll say issue 1, even though it's issue 0, and you would stop right before you start seeing familiar scenes from episode 6. That's when you would stop. But it just kind of shows what she's like real quick as Palpatine talks to Vader about her. And then Vader is introduced to Mara Jade. That's basically it. Sorry. In Star Wars Tales, numbers 1 and 2, there is a short story called Extinction, which shows up in both of those, part 1 and part 2. Which brings back the Dark Lady. Do you guys not remember the Dark Lady? Well, back when we were in the prequel era, in the comics, we had this lady called the Dark Lady, who had trained Ayla Secura, who had been friends with Kiara, who had trained a little bit Ashrod Het. So this lady has been around, and she has survived apparently everything, and continued to live for another basically 20 years, or almost 20 years. But the Imperials find her, and Vader is sent to kill her. We also have a nice cameo by Mara Jade in here, so that's cool. But yeah, it's Vader taking down another Jedi, as he so loves to do. However, difference here being that at the end, she says, do you think that's it? That there's no other path from the dark side? Darth Vader's very sure that once you choose this path, there is no turning back. And she's dying, being like, are you sure about that? And he just screams, there's no turning back, and he slices her down. She also becomes a Force ghost, which I'm iffy about. On the one hand, there's no explicit mention that Vader didn't know, and it still works, I guess. But you know, in episode 4, when Vader slices down Obi-Wan, and then he just becomes closed, basically, and he's like, what the fudge? Now, you could take that as his first time ever. I haven't seen that, but I guess, theoretically, it could have happened once before, and so now he's, like, spooked, because he's like, is he a ghost now? Because he disappeared in the same way this one lady did. But I don't know. I mean, it's really good, so I'm willing to accept it, because overall it's a really good, like, and it's not inherently a contradiction, it's just weird, but I thought the overall story was pretty good, so I can forgive it. But that's pretty much it, guys. Sorry for all the yawning. I'm so tired. That's pretty much it for today. Up next, I have a couple more comics, and then we read Death Troopers, Zombies in Space. So I hope you all join me for that. Until next time, may the Force be with you.